Today we're going to be going over loot from 500 Arbiter of Ash kills in Path of Exile 2 Dawn of the Hunt. I want to jump pretty much straight to the chase and just immediately go over all the loot that I got. I will put some pictures of the items that I've already sold, as well as some of the drops and some of the footage that I got along the way into this video. I do apologize for any audio or video quality issues, but please bear with me. So without further ado, like I said, I'm just going to go straight into the loot. From 500 Arbiter of Ash kills, we got 150 Shrine Scepters, 150 Regalias, around 50 the Grand Quizzes, 50 of the Grand Machetes, and around 100 Grand Visages, as well as 60 some diamonds, which you can see here in my guild stash. Now, I did spec into the precursor tablets for this. All of this footage was recorded before the recent changes to pretty much all of the endgame content. And so with those changes, I did spec into the valuable socket currency just to see if it would drop some of the new runes or new items that they introduced into the game. But originally, we did spec into the corrupted rare precursor tablets. All of these kills were done using a Blood Mage bleed build that I built towards the start of the league using the trials. That's how I funded the build, to be able to one-shot the Arbiter and essentially acquire all of this loot. So if you guys would like a video on how I managed to gear this character and how I managed to make so much currency at the start of the league without buying or selling items or manipulating the market, definitely let me know. Now, when I started this video, I had around 100 divines, and the price for an Arbiter key was around 5.5 divines total for all three fragments. And as you can see, if I go to my currency tab, we currently have 0 divines. Now, most of the profit from this video was spent on upgrading gear. I didn't just buy gear straight out. I bought bases and I crafted my own gear just because it was significantly cheaper. Rare items that I acquired from the Arbiter, we did acquire quite a few really good rare items that sold for tens of divines a piece, which is one of the reasons why I love doing Pinnacle endgame content. The reason being that most of the loot that drops is item level 84, all of it actually, and so it's also all tiered, and as a result you have the ability to get some really good rolls on some rare items without ever having to craft items yourself. Because at item level 84, items can roll with the highest tiers and the best possible outcomes. So all the loot that you see in these tabs here did come from the Arbiter. As I said, I did spec into rare precursor tablets. We did sell a bunch of them. I've got around 100 here. I made around 100 divines selling precursor tablets. We've got some more in the guild stash here. Some of them sold for around 5 divines a piece. It really depends. If you get a ritual precursor tablet that says that you can re-roll ritual favors an additional time, those are worth around 5 divines, but everything else is worth, around a divine. Most of the precursor tablets will sell for it as a divine if you're patient. If you really want to just offload them, you can list them for 5 to 10 chaos. They will sell a lot quicker. I believe I have mine listed at 15 right now because I just got bored of selling the items. But yeah, all the items that you see in these tabs are profit from the Arbiter, with the exception of the jewels, as well as with the exception of the breach rings that you see. But all the other rings and the amulets and everything else are items, except this Tangle Tongue here, are items that I acquired from the Arbiter. I did this morning empty my stash. I had a bunch of items listed for 10 chaos to 1 divine, and I pretty much just offloaded all of the items that I had acquired. Now, I do want to throw just a little bit of information out there. Recently, I was commenting on XX the Farmer's videos saying that a lot of the items that he was selling were, real world trade examples, and a lot of people attacked me for saying that. And so just right away, I wanted to kind of dismiss those claims and kind of address one thing, which is that a lot of rare items that you acquire that you might price check for hundreds of divines and that you see streamers selling for hundreds of divines won't actually sell for 100 divines. So I believe there was a video recently where XX the Farmer sold a helmet with 330 energy shield on it, less resistance than this and less rarity on this, for around 100 divines. Now, as you can see here, I have this helmet here, 40% rarity, 41% fire res, 28% lightning res. It's been listed for 5 to 10 divines forever, and it will not sell. So there's a lot of misleading information out there. We have a bunch of other items as well. If I come into here, For example, this regalia here, price checks for, 240 to 500 divines. It's been listed for 70 for quite a while. Yeah. So pretty much how I went about the Arbiter and the loot in general was that I started, like I said, with around 100 divines, and I noticed that the wiki had stated that the drop rate of the Sacred Flame Shrine Scepter was around 3%. From 10 kills, I got 5 Sacred Flame Shrine Scepters, and so I knew immediately that the drop rates on the wiki were very misleading. Like I said, the fragment keys were around 5.5 divines each, and the price of the scepter at the time was around 40 divines. And I was experiencing around a 30 to 50% drop rate. So there was misinformation on the wiki that was kind of straying people away from killing this boss, giving them a misleading expected return value. All these items that you see in these tabs here also came from the Arbiter. Some of them you're probably wondering why I still have, such as this gelid staff. I just thought it was kind of cool, so I held on to it because I had not identified any similar items. So yeah. Anyways, with the regalias, we did go ahead and identify all of them. Now, from identifying all of the regalias, we did get a couple regalias that were really good. We got a couple all attributes, chaos res, elemental resistance regalias. Now, these will sell for around 70 divines if they get a 5th socket. I actually have one of these on a different character that I got myself from reforging regalias. So I believe that the price of a regalia at the moment is around, 20 chaos to 30 chaos, or at least it was before the update. The update has changed the price of the keys. Right now, the keys are actually pretty much less than 3 divines to buy a full set of keys. I do buy the keys using chaos orbs just because it saves a lot of money. They're most expensive to buy with divines. They're least expensive to buy with exalted orbs, but when you buy them with exalted orbs and you break down divines, it becomes very expensive gold-wise. And the reason why is because, as you can see, just this right here is 6.3k. So if we were to convert divines to exalteds, it costs around 60,000 gold per conversion. So if you're killing this boss 500 times and spending 3,000 divines on this, it's going to cost tens of millions of gold. So I did eventually start buying these keys using chaos orbs. So that is something that you should keep in mind. And like I said, we did get pretty lucky. I don't know if we got lucky or we went on rate or whatever else. We got, like I said, around 150 regalias, 150 shrine scepters. Had I sold the regalias in bulk, I probably could have gotten a little over 100 divines, but like I said, I did identify all of them. I did corrupt 90% of them. I also reforged all of them, and we actually made a profit of around 70 divines on the regalias as a whole because, like I said, we were able to get some regalias similar to this, and I did sell them for 65 to 70 divines when they got a 5th socket, and I am using one of them on an additional character. Now, the price of the Shrine Scepter, because of the price of the keys has went down so much, has went down significantly. This is a 2-socket Sacred Flame Shrine Scepter right here that is currently 35 divines. Now, I was recently commenting on another video where an individual had stated that essentially when it comes to these Sacred Flame Shrine Scepters, that he was making a profit by getting a 2nd socket on them. And so I'll show you right here, the price of 2 sockets or additional spirit or whatever else, they're all the same. The only thing that matters when corrupting these Shrine Scepters is whether that gain percent of damage as extra fire damage rolls above 60%. Out of 150 Shrine Scepters that I did corrupt, I only got 2 that rolled above 60%. Most of them bricked. Now, because I was getting so many of these Shrine Scepters, we didn't actually lose money from corrupting any of them at all. So that's just something to keep in mind. I do have extra regalias just kind of laying around that I have not reforged yet. For example, this one would be a good one for reforging. It has spirit on it, but the max life and the life regen are pretty pointless. So yeah. We did get a couple very good rare items. Like I said, we got a triple tier 1 or tier 9 at the time pair of gloves with adds damage as well as tier 1 dex. Those price checked for around 400 divines. Now, I listed them for 200 and they sat for over a week. And I lowered the price by 5 divine every single day, and eventually those gloves only sold for 5 divines. Which is sort of a common theme that I've noticed. Unless you're a streamer or you have sort of some exposure, it's really hard to sell very good items because people just don't necessarily want to buy them. for example, I have right here a chest piece with spirit on it and triple resistance. Now, if you price check this with just the spirit, the cast res, and the evasion, it's worth, you know, over 100 divines. You throw all these on there, and there were a couple listings for a mirror. Now, these are pretty low resistance rolls, I'm not going to lie. Pretty low spirit roll as well. A lot of people are going to say, well, it's because it's an evasion piece. Evasion is actually very, very good. I have a lot more effective HP with this evasion life build than I would have with any energy shield build, which is why I built this character the way that I did. Now we're sitting at around 78% evasion because we're using this to kill bosses. But if you were to go do the trials, I would change my gear out, for example. And evasion and life are incredibly good at the trials of Sekimas, because if you're evading damage, you can't lose honor. And if you can reach around 90% evasion with block chance, you will never get hit and you will never lose honor, which a lot of people ask me, how were you able to farm the trials? How were you able to bring 5 people a run to do carries and make 5 divines plus per run? The answer is evasion. You cannot do trial carries and just the trials in general with only energy shield, because you take too much damage, you lose too much honor, and if you're trying to sell carries and trying to bring people with, you can't go in there with less than max honor because they risk dying. But anyways, as I was saying, I have a lot of items for sale and in my tabs that price check for a lot more than what they'll actually sell for. So for example, you know, I know that if the XX, the farmer, got an item similar to this, he probably would sell it for 500 divines because that's what it price checks for. You know, if we price check this quiver, it literally price checks for, with its current stats, 320 to 1,000 divines. There's multiple listings on the marketplace. I have mine listed for 65 and it will not sell. Now, I know what a lot of people are going to say, oh, that bow skill roll is really low. Well, we actually have a couple quivers that are listed for only 1 divine that actually have way better or higher rolls. Now, this one here, for example, is +2 proj with tier 1 lightning. You know, 5 divines won't sell. This one here, you know, tier 1 lightning, I think that's tier 1 fire. All you'd have to do is whittle this one once for bow skills, and you know, you'd really be rolling. We have 57% damage with bow skills. We've got a couple quivers like this. These bows down here, I did get both of these from the Arbiter. I actually got 3 like this from the Arbiter. We tried to fracture them. We did miss on pretty much all of them, but they are bow attacks fire 2 additional arrows on a bow attacks fire an additional arrow base. So yeah. We have a couple other items down here. Now, for example, a lot of these items, you know, you price check them and they price check for a lot of money. Like this, for example, price checks for, I believe, around 100, 200 divines. I have it listed for 8. Again, it will not sell, which is, like I said, sort of the theme. I have a couple other helmets. I'm not too sure where they are. I had a helmet that was +1 minion skills, or +2, I mean, with around 400 energy shield rarity and either intelligence or chaos resistance on it. I think I had to sell that for 5 divines. Again, it price checked for hundreds of divines, but I had it listed forever. I lowered the price by 5 divines every single day until eventually it sold for that price. Now, we do have a couple items in here that are sort of overpriced, such as this pair of gloves. You'd have to whittle this pair to make them any good. But I believe when I got these and I price checked them, they were worth around 100 divines. So anyways, all the loot that's in these tabs is profit, but a lot of it's misleading because even though I have it listed for a high value or price checks for a high value, the reality is it just won't sell for that much. We did get 1 tier 0 unique from the Arbiter, which was Mjolnir. Now, unfortunately, again, as you can see here, this one price checks for around 100 divines. It price checked for around 100 divines before the update came through. And as you can see here, I've had it listed for 10 and it will not sell. So again, that's really unfortunate. Now, some of these items are pretty bad, don't get me wrong. You know, we do have some items, like, for example, this would really need +3 to level of all spell skills on it, and it probably would be worth a mirror. I did keep this amulet, though, and I did list it for quite a bit because of the recent mana stacking changes. So, yeah. But yeah, anyways, to go over total profit for this video, I really have to sort of showcase this build and this character. because like I said, we're sitting at 0 divines right now. We do have a couple hundred divines in items for sale, although like I said, most of them probably won't sell. Here's another example of an item I got from the Arbiter. This one here, 2400 evasion rating with these stats. If I just remove the corruption on it and we price check it, there's nothing like it. If we lower the rolls and we price check it, you know, it's again, I have the cheapest one on the market. It has an incredibly high evasion rating. It doesn't have life on it, which is unfortunate, but again, you know, it's just a little bit unfortunate. Now, again, we have some pair of boots here. These boots actually price check for around a mirror with the decks on them. But again, these have been listed forever. I've been lowering the price. There's one that actually popped up 2 days ago for the same price as mine, and they will not sell. We did get a couple pretty nasty rings had they rolled with more damage on them. Like, for example, this has pretty good suffixes, but pretty bad prefixes. Got a couple wands that I did corrupt. I did sell one wand similar to this one for 10 divines. Unfortunately, we corrupted this one and it bricked a little bit, and so it will not even sell for 3 divines. We have a couple of the best bucklers in the game. For example, this one here has pretty good resistance rolls on it. Also has really high block chance, and it has max life on it. Will not sell. You know, we've got, I had a few more bucklers, not too sure where all of them are at. Most of these items that are remaining are pretty bad because I've already sold most of the good items. But like I said, most of the good items that I had, the really good items, price checked for hundreds of divines and only sold for 10 or 20. Now, I don't doubt that if a streamer had tried to sell those items that they would have inevitably sold for hundreds of divines, but me as just the casual average player, it's really hard to sell any item that has any value. Good example are these rings. Now, I actually made these rings myself, and these rings are not very good when you first look at them because they are on bad bases. They're not breach rings, but if we just price check this ring, for example, 500 divines, 1,000 divines, but I've had this ring listed for 50 divines and it wouldn't sell. Same thing with this ring right here. We price check this one. Obviously, there's one for sale for 30 exalted, but that is most likely BS. The guy probably won't respond. But if we price check this ring, again, hundreds of divines. But again, I had that ring listed for around 50 divines. It wouldn't sell. We also have this amulet, and if I just price check it, this is pretty much the best in slot amulet that you could get for this build. It has life, percent, max life, crit damage, bonus melee skills, spell damage, which you obviously use with Crown of Eyes. And then it has damage taken recouped as life, which is actually really good for a full life build because 25% damage taken recouped as life basically translates into 25% reduced damage taken. So yeah, again, this amulet as well will just, it will not sell. Really unfortunate, but it is what it is. I think this one, the best offer I had for it was 50 divines, but as you can see, anything even remotely close to this is hundreds of divines. So like I said, there's a lot of misleading information out there just with items as a whole. But yeah, we'll go into the loot for Arbiter again. Now, I did use guild storage for a lot of the loot. You'll see I have a lot of unidentified items here. I wasn't sure how they were going to handle the changes to some of the endgame content and some of the chase uniques that they were talking about. And so I started keeping a lot of these items unidentified, hoping that they'd retroactively update. Turns out they don't retroactively update. They didn't actually make any changes to these items. But with that being said, these grand visages can actually be worth quite a bit of money. I have sold a couple of these with spirit implicits on them that I corrupted for around 10 divines. I have a couple listed for 15 right now, but if I just take all this off of here and we search the item, you can see 15 to 20 divines. Now I have a couple like this. There's this one right here, and there's another one right here with 28 spirit. And so those will most likely sell because I've already sold some of them, but they do take quite a bit to sell, quite a bit of time. And like I said, a lot of this loot takes quite a bit of time to sell, but it is worth it in the end. And I would say that in total, I've profited around 1,000 divines because most of this gear that you see here, I did make myself. I bought bases, I bought omens, and I whittled and basically crafted or corrupted most of this gear myself. The amulet I did by myself. the chest piece I bought and the boots I bought, but I did corrupt and whittle these myself. They were originally bases. The ingenuity I actually got from killing the audience boss and corrupting the belts that I got myself. These ball wraps I bought at the start of the league for around 3 divines, and then I fractured them and whittled them, and that is the result. But again, I've tried to sell these a couple times for quite a bit of money. They do price check for several mirrors. There were a couple pairs listed for, 500, 600 divines, similar to this. But again, I had this pair listed for around 100, 200 divines, and it just wouldn't sell. In order to better understand some of the profit that I've made, because I don't have too much to show for it, we will log into my other character. This is a character that I built using profit from the Arbiter. I had basically wanted to build a mapping character. The Blood Mage Bleed build is very good at mapping, but it's not, incredibly good. Not as good as something like a, Deadeye. I didn't really want to play a Deadeye, so I built a Ritualist and did an Astromentus build. So this build here was funded by profits from the Arbiter. Here's another example of a ring that if you price check, it's going to price check for, 400 divines, 300 divines. Again, I've tried to list this ring here. If we just put the rarity on it instead, 400 divines. I've tried to sell this ring for 200 divines, and it will not sell. Here's one of the regalias that I actually identified, and then again, the rest of these items I actually bought with profits from the Arbiter. So we have a pair of 30% move speed, 31 in cold res, lightning res, pair of boots, 350 energy shield. Not the best, but not the worst. These are worth quite a bit of money. If we just come here, 20 divines minimum to just buy them straight out. You add the intelligence on there, hundreds of divines. If we look at this Sky Crown Tiara right here, pretty good, 10 divines minimum. You add the crit chance on there. I guess there is one for 20. But again, this is like what I said. You'll get a lot of these items that price check for a ton of money, hundreds of divines, but then at the end of the day, if you're just the average player and you're not a streamer and you don't have exposure, you're most likely going to have to sell it for something like 10 to 20 divines like this guy is right here. But like I said, all of this gear right here was funded and paid for using the trials, or not the trials, profit from the Arbiter. We did get a Shrine Scepter right here, as you can see. This is the one that corrupted to 61%. I did get one that corrupted to 66% for approximately, I believe it was 90 divines is what I sold it for. But it's really important to note that with the one that was 66%, the other 2 rolls on the scepter also corrupted to be very, very high. So as I was saying, the loot from the Arbiter as a whole, very, very good loot, very profitable. I have done around 50 keys since the update though, and I have not gotten a single Shrine Scepter. Believe it or not, I've actually gotten a majority Grand Visages. I haven't even really gotten any regalias. I didn't read the patch notes entirely, so I don't know if they changed or nerfed the drop rates, but it definitely feels like that because, like I said, I've done around 50 of these since the update, and I have not gotten a single Shrine Scepter. Now, before the update, the Shrine Scepter was, I believe, it was dropping in price. It was around 20 divines. When I started killing the Arbiter, it was around 40. So I wouldn't really recommend for most people to go kill this boss because the profitability of it has definitely significantly reduced because just the price of the items, as more people have been able to kill the boss, has dropped. And as a whole, the loot and just everything in general, not as good as it was. Especially after the update. The longest dry streak I went on before the update was around, I believe 18 kills without a Shrine Scepter was the longest dry streak I went on, and I only had one dry streak even similar to that the entire time I was killing the Arbiter. Now we'll go in here, I'll sort of showcase my build. This isn't the best or the most amazing build, but like I said, I was able to build this using profit and loot from the trials. We do have a couple pretty good gems on this build. These gems, most of these ones here, price check for quite a bit of money, such as this one. No results. If we lower this to, 1, 5, 24, it's quite a bit of divines. I did try to fracture this one so that I could whittle it, and unfortunately we hit the one modifier that we did not want to hit. But yeah, like I said, we do have quite a bit of good gems, such as this one as well. They're all just very good for this build as a whole. I don't really know why this Heartstopper one reduced in price so much, but Yeah, when I originally bought this, it was around 10 divines. This is a really, really good gem. I would even argue that it's better than Mind Over Matter or any of the other options, because when you allocate these gems, you know, all of this is just raw damage. Since you're killing most everything in the game at this point that's at full health in one hit, these are just very, very good. I mean, this is basically doubling your damage against anything that's full life, which is everything that you hit. And if you can kill everything in one hit, why wouldn't you, right? So yeah, just kind of a little tidbit of information there, a little just side note. But like I said, we will do one Arbiter kill right here. I'll try to put some footage in the video of me killing the Arbiter, as well as some of the cool drops and just rare items that I got along the way, because we did get quite a bit. And like I said, one of the big reasons why I enjoy killing the Arbiter or doing anything in general is just mostly because the base items that are dropped are just so good, the rares and just everything else. So we'll hit this guy, you know, pretty easy. He's going to do his little fireball attack. That's perfectly fine with us. Now, I usually try to kill him inside of this attack, so he's going to phase in the middle of the room right here. We're just going to dodge this. He'll grab his sword and pull it out of the ground. And then we can kill him right before he jumps. You kind of got to be a little bit perfect with that, I'm not going to lie. But we kill him. I open the portal. We look here at the loot. We did get a regalia, unfortunately, so that's about 51 dry. And then, like I said, I do pick up all of this loot here because pretty much all and any of it can be worth a considerable amount of money unless it has armor on it. For some reason, armor items just really aren't worth that much. In the game as a whole, I've gotten a lot of really good armor items, a lot of really good armor boots, and just items in general, and just none of them will sell, right? We will identify these items here, including that diamond that I had in my inventory. So these gloves, for example, are pretty bad. And then I just vendor anything that's bad. I go through the loop between every single kill. Pretty much all of this is really bad. We'll look at the regalia. The regalia is pretty bad. And then we got +2 to level of all Ice Nova skills. Now, I have no idea if this is used or not. It looks like if it was +3, it'd be worth something. But +2, currently not worth anything. So we'll throw it in the guild stash. Now, one thing I wanted to go over is that I definitely would have made more money from this challenge had I not identified any of these prisms of belief. These were around 6 divines each when I was killing this boss originally, unidentified. And yeah, as you can see, we've identified all of them. There's around 70 here. And I've only gotten +3 Plague Bearer, +3 Sunder. Both of those sold. One of them sold for 30 divines, the other sold for 50. I also got a +2 Rake, which sold for 30 divines. So that's around 110 divines. But everything else I got was pretty much worthless. But that being said, there are people who definitely come in here and kill this boss and get some very good loot. I have gotten quite a bit of these skeletal prisms of belief as well. I'm sure some people, having killed this many and identifying this many, would probably identify like a +3 skeletal storm mage or skeletal frost mage that would sell for hundreds of divines, or a +3 flicker strike. But unfortunately, that is not me. Now, like I said, with these regalias, I don't sell them unidentified or anything like that. I pretty much just come through here and I either corrupt them. Now, unfortunately, I don't corrupt all of them because it's very hard to divine these to be good values, but we do reforge them pretty frequently. So I'll come through here real quick. Looks like we have a couple bad ones here. This one is all res, life regen, spirit. Life regen, max life, spirit, chaos res, max mana, reduced critical damage bonus. Now, with these regalias, some of them actually sell for more than you'd expect. So yeah, you never know. If it says global defenses on it, that can actually be pretty good, especially combined with spirit and all elemental resistances. All LE res, spirit, global defenses is worth a lot because some people use those with chaos inoculation builds. So yeah, but like I said, I do reforge these. These probably won't be good. Of course, it's not good, so we just throw it back in the tab and we go again and we keep killing the Arbiter and we sort of go from there. At some point, I will corrupt all these helmets and these boots just to see if we're able to get anything that's worth anything. But yeah, like I said, we also got this quarterstaff here, which I think is pretty cool. We did fracture and we hit the +7 to level of all melee skills. I only got one quarterstaff out of all 500 kills that rolled with +7 on it. Pretty rare to find that +7 to level of all melee skills modifier, but we do have a couple other cool items as well, like this buckler here, very high evasion and block chance for a buckler. There were a couple other items as well. Trying to find them. I may have deleted them because they didn't sell, because recently I did delete a bunch of items. We have this one right here, which actually has 1,062 evasion on it. Now, believe it or not, this is like the minimum price for a buckler similar to this, and this is what I'm talking about. A buckler with 1,000 evasion on it minimum is 2 divines to 60 divines. This has triple resistance on it, fire, lightning, cold, and I've had this one listed for like 3 weeks and it won't even sell for 10 divines. Like I said, I know what a lot of people are going to say. They're going to say, oh, well, people just don't use those items. It doesn't change the fact that they're good items and that they do have a use. So obviously this build that I have here is worth, well over a mirror, especially with all the gems factored in, and so is my Astromentis character. Just raw price checking items, and here we go. Here is a precursor tablet getting sold. So like I said, these do sell. Quantity of items, rarity, and experience gain. Some of these, like I said, sell faster than others. Some take a lot longer to sell, but eventually they do all sell. It's just a matter of how patient you want to be with it. If you're getting spammed pretty much as soon as you post it, I would recommend to, as always, raise the price. But yeah, like I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned a little bit of something, and hopefully you can kind of see the loot that you might be able to expect from killing the Arbiter. I have no idea if it's better or worse now with the changes. Like I said, I did spec into this socketable currency node, and in 50 some kills I have not gotten any of the new items. I have not even gotten I have no idea what this means, a valuable socket currency, because yeah, I have not gotten anything. I've only gotten 2 diamonds since the update and no Sacred Flame Shrine Scepters. So like I said, I didn't read the patch notes in their entirety, but it definitely feels like they nerfed drop rates because I just have not been getting as much loot as I was, or as good of loot. But like I said, all these items here, everything came from the Arbiter. Obviously not these precursor tablets. Even these, waystones came from the Arbiter. The regalias, everything here. So assuming everything sold, I would be very high in the profit. Obviously right now we're broke. Even this felt cap that I corrupted to have spirit on it, which is crazy because I've corrupted a lot of helmets this league. I did not really corrupt any last league, that many of them at least, and pretty much every helmet that I've corrupted this league has gotten spirit on it. I've corrupted some helmets that I thought if they got a double socket would just be worth a lot, but as you can see here, we do have a couple that have additional sockets on them, or I mean did not get additional sockets. Yeah. Again, like I said, there's a lot of misleading information out there as well with these rare items and just items in general, because you'll get items that price check at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of divines, and they just don't sell for that much. Even this amulet came from the Arbiter. Believe it or not, I actually got 2 amulets from the same kill that both rolled with spirit and plus level to all melee skills. So that was pretty cool. Definitely wasn't expecting that. At the time, these price checked for like 15, 20 divines. I listed it for 7. Obviously, it didn't sell, and now there's just a lot cheaper options. I'm sure if I lowered the price to around 5 divines, it would probably sell though. So like I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned something. I do apologize for the audio, video quality issues, etc. And if you guys want another video, if you want a video on how I built this character, how I do the trials, how I got to being able to do this, definitely let me know. And again, just to reiterate, I did not have 3,500 divines when I started this project, which is around how much this would cost. I had around 100 divines, and I bought around 20 keys to kill the Arbiter for 5.5 divines each per attempt. I died a couple times. Little quick note I forgot to throw in there: if you are dying at the Arbiter, you can actually pay someone on TFT to come in and kill the boss for you, and they charge around a divine, but you won't miss out on the loot. So if you'd rather not just straight up lose 6 divines, normally you can pay an extra divine to have someone come in and finish off the boss for you. Sometimes it takes more than one person because the people don't really know what they're doing. They don't know the mechanics. And if they're not able to just one-shot it right off the start, they end up dying. So yeah, but anyways, like I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully you learned something, and hopefully you guys are able to profit as well. Total profit for this video was around a little bit over 1,000 divines, but we did reinvest all of it. We are currently broke again, and hopefully just a couple of these items here will eventually sell. I mean, that would be amazing. It would be great, and I would be very happy. So yeah, like I said, thanks for tuning in. Have a wonderful day, everybody. See you guys some other time.